Everyone online says you need to scale with a course. And I say, sell the damn service. I'm Emily Williams, award-winning consultant and Productize offer expert since 2014. And I'm here to help you work less, make more, and stop custom building your burnout. Each week, we talk strategy, structure, and the real stories behind sustainable service businesses. You know, from service providers who like doing service work, who want to stay in service work, but also just make more money. If you're ready for all that yapping, then let's dive in. Tis the season of looking at the year ahead and looking at your current offer suite and your revenue goals and everything you want to achieve and letting your brainstorm, brain dump list of all of the things you've ever wanted to sell, create, design, make, push out, offer, whatever, start to become a little bit more a reality than it did in Q4 of last year. I feel like Q1 is quiet for a lot of people. And it's still winter. And so we are still ideating and creating and organizing thoughts and all of the things. And that time of year tends to be the most fruitful for ideas that should not see the light of day. But a lot of us will push out ideas that should have just stayed in the bank or stayed a conversation between a biz friend. And so I want to pose an alternate reality to you and a challenge that I went through myself last year. And I want to kind of talk about the results of that, not numbers, but quantitative, right? I shared plenty of qualitative data about this intention and this focus last year when I did a launch debrief episode, both here and on Substack. So if you want data, you can go listen to those. You can also listen to the episodes where I recapped my 2025 and I shared a lot of numbers and how my ultimate revenue pie is made up of what, right? What tends to happen around this time of year is that we're kind of reflecting on the questions that our clients asked us last year, what we're seeing as being trendy or popular, what we're noticing that other people are creating and pushing out there. And inevitably, because we are really good at what we do and we're really smart, we have an opinion about some of those things. And inevitably, the things that are being talked about or asked about, we could probably create a resource around and it would be pretty good and it would probably sell, right? So I want to kind of pose to you two different versions of my own business because I've ran both. Because I've ran both types, I have said yes to one path and I've said yes to a different path. And I want to show you and kind of just talk out with you the different versions of reality depending on which path you choose. So version one is you had a service or an offer and you've sold it and it's working, but it's not scaled to the level that you think that it could be or that it should be. There are some tweaks that maybe need to happen. It feels kind of like old news at this point. You've sold it to the people who are in your audience, who are in your network, and you kind of feel like maybe it's stale and your audience is stale, your list is stale, right? Your network is stale. And so we kind of start to look at it as like our ugly stepchild, right? Sorry to all the stepchildren out there. I am a stepchild. And so we are the same. But we look at this offer as like, I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to tweak it anymore. I did everything I could for that offer and it just is, right? And we see no glory in it anymore, right? And I've been there. I've been literally on that side of the business side of things, right? Where I was creating an offer and I sold it and it went really well. I sold it to some amazing people. I got to run it. I did it and it did great. And then I did another launch of it or another iteration of it and it did okay, right? And then inevitably it's the third or the fourth time that I'm trying to push this thing out in a really big way and it's not performing as well as it used to, right? And I say, okay, well, I either need to find a bunch of new people to sell this thing to, or I can make something new and sell that because every time I make something new and I push something out, it works, right? And hey, I'm providing more services because these clients asked for these resources. They had these questions. I know I can help them. Why wouldn't I? Right? And that's what Emily's always talking about, right? Increasing LTV. I should be selling things to my current clientele and selling them more things so that I can get more money, more bang for my buck, right? Out of a client. That version of that strategy is often miscalculated and misunderstood. Because what inevitably happens, and what did happen, in fact, in a business that I ran for 8.5 years, is I rinse and repeated that same model. I made something, sold it did well, sold it again, it did okay, sold it again, and it did meh. So I made something new, did well, sold it again, it did okay, sold it again, it did meh. So I made something new, and quite literally, I did that for 8.5 years. Okay? It wasn't until I left that business and went to therapy and started this business and decided to commit to a new version of reality that I was able to see the repetition in the behavior that I was doing, that I was partaking in, and that I was having my own community partake in, right? Because what was happening was that even though my audience was building, my community was building, my list was building, I mean, we're talking just shy of 100,000 subscribers, a large web traffic audience, a large listener base to a podcast, right? That was growing all the time. But it was the same set of people who were buying, the same set of people, because those folks were the raving fans, the super ideal clients, the, put anything in front of them and they'll buy it kind of people. And we all think that we want those kind of people. And there's nothing wrong with those kind of people at all. We created that. We taught them to act like that, right? So what was happening was that I would create something and it would go really well because those people were like, oh, yes, I want that. And they would dive in. They would be our early adopters. And then the second adopters would come through about the second launch, and then it would start to fall off, right? And the only way to kind of get that high again of creating something new and it being really, really well received and it selling well was to create a new offer and run with the next brilliant idea. And, oh, this is getting popular and this is going to be trendy. So I want to, have some skin in the game and be in the market. And I need to make something. I need to participate in that. It was a machine that I had half created and put out into this industry that ended up not serving me and not serving my clients. So that's one version of the reality. The second version is when I went out on my own again and I started consulting, and I walked you through this journey in the last episode, how I made $104,000 in between 5 and 6 months, of contracted revenue by having 4 conversations. So I started working one-on-one with clients. Well, I did that for about 18 months. I rinsed and repeated just that, asking, who do you know who could hire me? Allowing my clients to refer me for projects. And if I could do the project and I had the capacity and I felt like this project is moving me forward in clarity about what I want to do, right? This is kind of hard to explain, but I want to linger here for a minute, especially as service providers. And if you find yourself in this transition, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of us start Year one, this can last for as many years as you want it to. But for me, it was year one. I was the yes woman. It was about 6 months in. I was the yes woman. Anyone who wanted to hire me, I said yes. Any project you wanted to send my way, I said yes. Obviously, if I was capable of doing it, right? Because I didn't know. Is this something that I want to continue doing for the time being? Is this something that I'm going to like doing? Is this something I'm going to be good at doing? Is this something that I could imagine myself doing 10, 20, 30, 50 more times, right? And you don't know the answer to that until you say yes to those things, okay? So I was yes woman for about 6 months. And then for the next 6 months-ish, I was yes with intention. There are projects that were being sent my way that I knew I wasn't going to like, that were going to slow me down, that were going to take longer for me to deliver, that weren't going to put me in front of not just an ideal client, but an ideal working project, an ideal project. So I started saying no to some things, right? I started pitching specific containers or ways to work with me. Now, those specific containers, I probably had a rabbit hat, a magic hat, a top hat, where you pull things out of. I had one of those where I was maybe cycling through 7 to 10 different things, right? So again, instead of saying yes to everything, I have 7 to 10 things that I feel confident I could deliver on, and I'm going to say yes to it. The first 6 months of that was because, well, I needed revenue. I had just left my job and I had no income. So I'm going to say yes to everything. The next 6 months is still stabilizing, right? Okay, what can I say yes to with intention? Well, 12 to 14 months, 16 months into doing that, I started to notice some patterns and some trends. People are coming to me for these specific things. And here are the systems that I could build around that to deliver it easier and faster. When my consulting clients talk about me, here's the words that they use. When they refer me, here's how they introduce me, right? And here's what I could see enjoying doing for 20, 50, 100 times. And that's what led the clarity around what I offer in the consulting side of my business in Creatives Catalyst, right? And I would say that top hat, now that magic hat with the rabbit in it, instead of being a yes woman to everything and then going down to 7 to 10 items, it now has 1 to 3 items in it at any given moment. Honestly, mostly 2. That depending on the type of consultant I'm working with and what stage they're at, I'm going to recommend this container versus that container, right? It's pretty streamlined. It's pretty clear now what I can ask my clients to refer me to and for, what I should charge, what's the structure of it, what's the system of it, etc. And so I started to design that and productize it, right? You've heard me say that phrase over and over, and I'm going to not stop saying it. I love it. I started to productize that container and realize, okay, wow, the better I can make the onboarding and the delivery and the communications and the assets and the whatever else, right? That's how I can increase my capacity. And so I started testing it. And ultimately, long story short, and I've talked about this before because this is not my point, that gave way to me creating sold out services, which is not a consulting offer. It is a 12-month done with you container for service providers who want to make more revenue without burning themselves out, who want to still have a life, who might not want to grow into a large agency, who want to keep the magic of their custom service work, but optimize, productize, streamline what they can, right? And so I used everything that I had learned in the past 2 years, and of course, over the history of my 14 years in this industry and 14 years exclusively working with service providers to decide what sold out services was going to be and what's the promise, right? Now, the first version of sold out services launched, I think, March-ish of 2025. And then I relaunched in June, July, and then I relaunched in November. With every relaunch, it got refined and structured and better, improved, right? But the name stayed the same. The promise stayed the same. The intention stayed the same. The ideal client stayed the same. It's quite literally how it is packaged and how you interact with that was being refined. The messaging was continuing to get improved, yes, but it was the same thing. And the challenge that I gave myself and the challenge that I posed to you, especially at this time of year specifically, because it was around March that I did it. I know you're listening to this in January, but it was around March. I am a psychic. Okay. I know what's coming for you. Why? Because this is my 15th year doing it. I'm going into my 15th year. Okay. Well, it was around March, and I sat down with my partner and was telling him about sold out services, and I'm so excited. It could do this and it could do that, and it's going to do this, and here's how it's structured and all the things. And at this point, he knows me pretty well. He's also been around for a very long time. And he knows that I can get into the like, oh, I can make this and I can add on this and then I can sell this. And we talked about it. And I said, I really, really, really want to just commit to SOS. And he said, then do that. Don't create anything else this year. Don't sell anything else. It's just SOS. Talk about SOS, do SOS, offer SOS, refine it, tweak it, make it better. Sure. But the thing that you're doing is this. And I said, yeah, okay, I bet. And so March of 2025, I committed to truly and wholeheartedly not creating a single asset for sale, excuse me, including freebies at all. I had a freebie, it was working. I had a webinar I ran, it worked. I had a program that I loved and it was working. Do I want more people in it? Yeah. Then I got more people in it. Did I need it to convert better or faster or to a different level of client? Yeah. So I tweaked the messaging. Did I feel like at one point it was promising too much? Yeah. So I cut out a huge chunk of it and refined it. And every single time I did, every single time I actually audited the container, I sold more the next time that I launched it. My list wasn't growing that much. At this point, I have less than 400 people on my email list. I didn't start intentionally growing my list until March of 2025. So I haven't been growing it for a year. I don't even know how many new people, like it's not growing. You know what I mean? That is something I'm working on. But I committed and I told myself I'm committing for an entire year, not just 2025. So I technically still have 3 more months of this commitment. I'm committing to an entire 12 months of only having sold out services. And that is how you can work with me in that side of my business, that container, right? That's it. And when I was planning out 2026, it was so easy. I have so many ideas of things I could create. And one of them, I'm at least allowing myself to explore, and I'm getting feedback from people first. But if I create it, it's going to be like a free challenge. It's going to be a lead magnet, right? But I quite literally, like, hand to Dumbledore, do not know if I'm actually going to create it because I am letting it marinate of the people who've responded to the inquiry form. By the way, you can go to soldoutservices.com/leads and give me your thoughts on this. Of the people who filled that out, are they ideal clients, ideal candidates for sold out services? If not, then it's not the thing I need to pour my time and attention to. If I feel like it's going to be confusing to my level 10 client at SOS, I don't need to make it. I care passionately. I care passionately about that topic, and it might come to fruition. It's still really early. Give me your feedback if you want it. But I don't know. It might just be a free blog post that I make. I don't know, because I'll talk about it in some capacity. But me deciding to put my time and energy into something, I've got one-on-one consulting clients to manage, and I've got a community of sold out services people who are actively going through the program, and I'm wanting to make sure it's the best fucking program they've ever been a part of. Improving that is going to get me more sales. This is something I said years ago. Years ago. It was when I was talking to photographers, and it was when I actually made my first course ever called Pricing for Profit, which was at one point rebranded to the Money Making Creative. It originally was for photographers. So it taught in-person selling, buyer psychology, selling psychology, packaging, all of that, right? And a big part of that conversation was I was sharing my referral strategy, specifically of how when I was in an in-person selling session, I would gift that person, typically the mom, the woman of the house, and I would give her like 5 gift cards to gift her friends for a free session with me. My sessions cost like, I think, $350. You could get it completely for free. And that felt like a really big gift and a big thank you. She also got their next session, their next like family session or whatever for free. Because specifically, I was an in-person seller. And so I sold product on the back end of that. My money didn't come from the session. My money came from the canvases and the albums and the 8x10s and the keychains and the magnets, right? It came from product. And so I will eat $250 to $350. I will pay $350 for an ideal lead because you're going to hype up the experience of working with me. And I over delivered in my in-person sessions. I brought cheesecake. I brought wine. It was a date night. I set the mood, right? And so because of that, I got other clients who wanted to experience that. They did the work for me. They became my word of mouth little minions, right? And I'll never forget the way that they described me and referred me was something like, Emily's not the cheapest in town, but she's the best. Emily's expensive, but she's worth it. Right? And I'm not saying this isn't about like high ticket and whatever. Like, I'm not talking about just being premium, right? But I'm talking about what would it look like if instead of this quarter making a new offer and selling it to the same old people, what if instead you took that same time and energy and really, really reworked your container to make it the best fucking container that ever existed? That made it so that you were the top 1% provider in experience and customer service and asset delivery and response time and communication. What if? Spoiler alert, the way that you do that is productization. That is what I do in SOS. This actually wasn't intended to be a pitch for my program, but there you have it. When you care about the prospect journey, the client journey, the experience of working with you and communicating with you and your team if you have one, when you care about that and you prioritize that, you win every time. And the brand that you've been building, the platform, the message that you've been saying continues to get to be your legacy. And it gets to expand and grow instead of having all of these spokes off of one rickety corner, right? And so I know right now ideas are flowing in the brain and everything sounds sexy and fun. And I know that it can feel like you're going to be behind if you don't make the new thing because it's so trendy. I get that. I get it. Here's how I'm personally combating that. If you needed a tangible solution, whenever I get an idea, and I quite literally have already done this with the leads and sales challenge that I'm throwing out there that I have yet to create, I wrote a really beefy Substack post about it. I might write a really, really good blog post about it. I recorded a podcast episode about it. I wrote a really good email and sent it to my list. And I got great feedback. And so I know there's something there, but I don't know if it's for my level 10 clients, right? So I got to scratch the itch a little bit by creating some content that was low lift for me. It's free for me, right? And it is truly helpful. And that might be where it stays. I got that kind of energy out and I'm letting it sit. And I quite literally do not have time until Q2 to even run a challenge like that. And so it was cool for me to practice. There's a little bit of the art of the patience and a little bit art of the um, delayed gratification, right? I think we could all practice that a little bit more because not only does it help your nervous system, but it also helps you not accidentally sabotage your entire business and your offer suite. More offers doesn't always mean more helpful for your ideal clients. So, something to noodle on, something to maybe put a pin in for later. If you want to tell me your brilliant idea that you really, really want to create this year, and I can remind you to put a pause in it, don't hesitate to send me a DM over on Instagram at Emily Says. If you do want to provide your 2 cents about where you're at with leads and conversions right now, I would love to hear it. So go to soldoutservices.com/leads to give me that feedback. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sell the Damn Service. I'm really honored that you spent however many minutes you just did with me. Now, if you could go do me a very quick favor and be sure to like, subscribe, leave a rating and a review for this podcast over on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or, pick your favorite platform. I'm not going to be that choosy. It truly means the world to me. It's how little tiny shows that are like mine, that are self-funded and, being edited in between dinner time and school pickup, it helps us get seen. It's free for you to do and takes just a couple of minutes. And I would love you forever. If I could send you an edible arrangement as a big thank you, I would. So instead, consider this giant thank you directed just at you for going to do that. And share this episode or this podcast with a friend who needs to hear it. I love ranting and raving about service-based business strategies. And, I think more people should listen to this show, honestly. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I really, really, really am grateful that you're here, and we will chat very soon.